This time on Volunteer Gardener, we'll see how a desire for a cottage garden and a willingness to work in the dirt has yielded a paradise of thriving plants for a Clarksville couple. And Troy Martin walks the grounds of Iris City Gardens to spotlight some of his favorite non-bearded iris. Join us. First, smiling flower faces at every glance.
What would you do if 9 years ago you bought a piece of property and all it had on it was an old Anjou pear tree and they were not good to eat? Well, I will tell you that Christy Mara and her husband in Clarksville, Tennessee have taken 9 years and turned full sun into something that you are going to be delighted with. Well, I think we're standing where it all began, Christy. What in the world is the size of this garden and where did you start?
This garden is about 75 feet by 40 feet. The original garden, our first one, was 4 feet by 6 feet, and it was right in there. And about the only thing in it were red salvias. And we were so excited to see it. When we made the decision to move here from San Diego, I knew I wanted a cottage-style garden. So I started doing research on all of the plants that I felt were cottage-style that would do well here in Clarksville.
Okay, I can see you have penstemon for sure.
I want the plants, the gardens to be full, but I don't want any one plant to take over another.
That is a real problem to conquer.
And I don't put any particular color. I like all different colors in my bed. And so if I like something, I'll put it in. I try to have the tallest things in the middle, shorter things in the front. I do try to have something blooming all through the year.
Okay, now for instance, this is what I call a spotlight plant right here. What is that?
Rose campion.
It's just unbelievable how that gray foliage and those fuchsia colors.
I am in this garden pretty much 7 days a week, and weeding is my #1 chore.
And you
unfortunately,
you have a good back.
I do.
Yeah, and you know, I like your choice of hosta here.
Thank you, thank you. Yes. I have a little bit of different texture and color in here, and I have a bleeding heart way back there. You can't see it very well.
I know what they do. They bloom and please us and disappear.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know, I think that this Leland cypress does really well as forming a screen in our yards, but this is really beautiful how you've given it a really structured look, and then it's free up there.
Thank you.
But now, right here, something showed up today.
The brown lasso iris.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
I know of the variety, but I'm not sure that I've seen it in bloom. I've seen it in the books, but that is beautiful. Christy, when I'm looking in your gardens, I noticed that you are using what I call hardy annuals that come back and reseed each year. Nigelia, for instance, and your larkspur. Do you have a special tip on how you nurture those? Are they really spontaneous right where they're coming up, or what?
Well, these reseed, as you said, and the first year I put them out was 2011. They didn't show up for a year, and now I have not had to put any of the seeds down because they just keep reseeding. But if you are going to put the seeds down for the first time, make sure and do it in the fall because they need that winter chill.
Oh, that makes them germinate. Well, now, how many of your flowers do you start on your own? Do you do a lot of seed?
No.
Okay.
I buy a lot of seeds and then I never plant them.
Well, we belong to the same club. Well, it is good to have this type of plant because it fills in.
That's right.
And you know what the most important thing is?
What is that?
You know your baby's face.
I know when I look down and seeds are emerging, there might be two side by side. They can be this big, and I'll know that's a weed, that's a plant. So you've got to go, you can stay. It's just something you learn.
Right. And you better.
You better, that's
Okay.
right.
Now we've entered to the front yard.
And Annette, I want to tell you, when we first moved here and there was nothing here, the first thing we planted were the viburnum and holly bushes there against the house. They were 1 gallon plants.
Oh, my.
But when we would pull up the driveway, we would think, oh wow, I can see some greenery.
growing.
We were so excited.
Well, I can tell you that I'm excited because I've stepped into what I think is called Morrow Park.
Correct, correct.
How did you do that?
Well, we made this part here starting in 2012, and I wanted something that was more park-like, that instead of so many flowers had a lot of shrubs with fragrance, texture. I know that in Morrow Park, I know how big all of these shrubs will get. For example, most of those hydrangeas that are in the background will reach 6 to 8 feet. And for instance, this Distilium here that took a little hit during the winter, but
The dark,
it will
foliage.
reach about 8 feet. So you're going to come around it. And so knowing these things are going to get tall, I left the room.
Yes, and you've definitely done the mind work in your garden, and I can envision the white or the pink of those hydrangeas that are back there against your Leland cypress wall that you have back there.
It'll look great once they start blooming.
And then the height also creates the element of surprise
Exactly.
with your walkways through here. Now, I see some unusual plants in here. This feverfew right here, you don't always see that. And you let this reseed?
I let this reseed. I started a couple years ago with 1 packet of seeds, and each year it comes back and it just starts moving and spreading. And again, being a cottage garden, that's the look I want.
Perfect.
I love it.
Right there, what is this little?
That's called a verbascum. And they started off, they reseed themselves also. When I first planted them, they only got to about 1 foot. Now they've reached their full growth. It took a couple years. They reseed and come back every year.
You've used the pink rose over there, and I see blanket flower, and I see you have catmint. And have you started your artistry into a topiary?
I have. I'm trying my hand at making a chicken topiary.
I think she can cackle. I can tell that's a chicken.
I just started it, so it will look more like a chicken soon.
For some reason, I look at this little area right here, Christy, and it seems to be different. Even the plant material is different. What did you do here? How did you achieve this?
Well, this area was an experiment. A few years ago, I had several packets of seeds, and I just got tired of planting the seeds. So I put them in a coffee can, mixed them all up, and threw them out. And this is what I got. And I kind of like this idea because everything's mingled.
The bachelor's buttons.
They reseed every year.
And I'm sorry there's not a bloom on this because this is a coreopsis.
It's a coreopsis. It's called cha-cha-cha. And soon all of these and all up and down the driveway will be covered with little yellow flowers with dark eyes.
Now you got the Sweet Williams out of there too?
And it's good to experiment.
Right. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want an honest answer. You have sitting spots,
I do.
and you have them tucked away, but I want to know, do you ever really sit down?
Oh, you bet. Part of what I made in this garden was we think of our garden as an extension of our living space. So we made a lot of places to sit and relax, have a glass of lemonade, watch the birds, enjoy the flowers. I strongly believe that if you spend so much time working in your garden, you should sit and enjoy it. and that's what we do.
Do you ever finish a cup of coffee or a glass of lemonade before you get up and do some work?
Probably not.
See, and you know what else I love? I love that you said we.
Well, my husband is a huge part of this garden.
And that's so wonderful.
We're a great team.
And is that why do you garden?
I garden, I think I got it from my father. My father loved to garden. He was in the Iris Society in San Diego and then the Daylily Society, and I think I got it from him. And I tell you, I just don't think there's anything better than gardening.
No. We live longer too.
That's right.
I'm very impressed with the roses and the colors and how healthy they look. How did you choose your rose specimen?
I wanted roses in Marl Park that would spread and fill in the area. So these are carpet roses in Marl Park, and I have several red ones, and then I did get a tangerine one in back of
that
us.
one. That tangerine is very beautiful. Let me ask you this. So actually with the carpet rose, you don't really have to cut them.
No, I don't.
Are they
I don't
disease
deadhead
resistant?
them. Yes, they are.
And they've resisted the virus?
They have.
Rosette?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is a very good thing to know. And I know that I can tell by looking at your garden that you can't say, I wish you'd seen it yesterday, because many gardeners will do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've done the mind work and the physical labor to see to it that every day is a new and complete surprise.
Well, thank you. Every day, pretty much every day I walk around in the morning. It's what I call my walkabout, and I'm amazed at all the new things I see every day.
I admire so much the teamwork you've had, the visions you've had, and I know the labor's been here, and you've been a wonderful friend to the Master Gardeners, but thank you and your husband.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Well, I just found the neatest system here at the Hip Donaldson Farmers Market, and I've got Sherry Lamb to tell me all about this wonderful tower thing. What is this?
Well, this is the tower garden, and it's a vertical aeroponic growing system. A lot of people think it's hydroponic because it is using water, but it's actually the air that feeds the roots and makes the nutrient solution that's in the water become highly oxygenated, and that causes the plants to grow at a lot faster pace. And what's neat about it is that there's no dirt. It's strictly water. So you see the base down here? It has about 20 gallons of water in it with the nutrient solution. And there's a pump, and it pumps that water up through the tower. It's on a timer, and it goes back down and trickles the roots, trickles the water down and feeds the roots of the plants. And it, like I said, it grows really, really fast. And you can grow anything in this that's not a root vegetable, basically.
Wow, what a wonderful system. Well, it looks like it would be great for any home or office, and I guess there are places you could even put lights on these.
Well, actually, we did put ours in our basement this winter, and we had produce, fresh produce, all winter long with just grow lights. We attached them to this tomato cage, and it was just amazing. So instead of going to the grocery store, we had our fresh produce, and it's organic, of course. You don't have to put any chemicals on it, and because there's no soil, you have far fewer problems with pests. So it's just an amazing thing. It's been out about 3 years, and you know, an interesting thing about it, it was developed at Epcot. So if you've ever been to Epcot at the land exhibit, you've seen this technology. It's exactly the same thing there except for home use. And you can put 20 different plants on this, and if you put an extension, you can get 8 more. So you get a lot of growing space in a very small space.
Well, for more information on the Tower Garden, please take a look at our website at volunteergardener.org. Thank you so much, Sherry, for telling me all about this.
You're welcome.
One of the go-to places for all kinds of iris here in Middle Tennessee is Iris City Gardens, owned by Greg and Macy McCullough out here in Prim Springs, Tennessee, and we're with Greg today. Greg, tell me a little bit about these beautiful iris that we're seeing here growing alongside these water lilies.
These are a Japanese water iris. The species name is Iris lavigata. And it comes in various forms, but it likes lots of water. It will actually grow in standing water, as these are. This species is a beardless iris. There's no beard. There's only a signal marking.
Right.
Where the beard usually is.
If people had water lily ponds, koi ponds, those kinds of things, and wanted to add some marginal plants along the edges, this would be
perfect.
option.
Yes, it would go right in their pond. You can grow them in pots, with no holes, so that the dirt doesn't come out, and we put a little sand on top of ours to keep any of the soil material from floating out, and it keep them the edge a little bit above water, keeps the fish from getting in them. And
this is, I think, just an especially beautiful one. And you mentioned not having any beards, and the iris that we're used to seeing in the garden, or I think what everybody would think of as a typical old-fashioned iris, has that sort of furry beard, if you will, that comes down the fall.
Yeah, caterpillar.
Yeah, kind of like a little caterpillar. And this is in a different group of iris that we would call beardless iris, which you mentioned.
Correct. That they just have a signal patch.
Right.
The bearded and the beardless are, you wouldn't think they would be also both called irises because they take such different conditions.
Sure.
Bearded want to be bone dry. They don't want fertilizer. They don't want mulch. Beardless are just the opposite. If they're bone dry, they're dead.
Right.
And they like lots of fertilizer and lots of water. So they can be mulched real heavily also, then that helps hold the moisture in. So that's the way we generally grow them in our beds.
Well, and I noticed some others too that I've grown successfully in my garden beds, and several of them are native. So let's go take a look at those.
Okay.
So up here we're looking at some native species and some selections and cultivars of those native species. Iris versicolor, and what other ones do you guys grow?
We grow Iris virginica. We grow Iris pseudochorus.
Yeah.
We grow
I think I saw
several
some
Louisianas.
fulva
Iris fulvas. We grow a fair number of natives and then native crosses. We grow pseudochorus crossed with Japanese irises.
Okay. And my experience has been that with iris like Iris virginica and Iris versicolor that are a little more marginal plants as far as where they grow, I can grow them pretty successfully in my garden beds.
Yes, they'll grow in just good rich soil.
Right.
With you can mulch them real well, but they don't have to. They don't want to be dry.
They don't have to be standing in water.
Correct, but they can grow in water.
Right.
Just like
they can do either way. They'll either grow in the water, or I tend to grow them with things like my daylilies and those plants that I'm watering regularly anyway.
Yes.
So they'll survive and thrive actually just fine in those conditions.
That's right.
As you can see, you can find an iris for every situation, not just the old-fashioned bearded iris that we're all accustomed to, but these beardless beauties also. They'll grow in standing water. You can use them in garden ponds, low areas in your yard, or for some species, they'll even grow well in your garden beds.